I need to tell you something that might sound impossible at first, but bear with me because what I'm about to share changed everything for me. 3 years ago, I was sitting in my car after another disappointing job interview, staring at my phone screen, wondering why nothing ever seemed to work out. Have you ever had that moment where you look at your life and think, there has to be more than this? That's exactly where I was. But something strange happened that day. As I sat there, I noticed the rain hitting my windshield in this perfect pattern. And suddenly I remembered something my grandmother used to say: the universe speaks to those who know how to listen. It hit me like lightning. What if I'd been listening to the wrong frequency my entire life? You see, we've been taught that life is about pushing, forcing, making things happen. But what if that's completely backwards? What if there's a hidden frequency that successful people, spiritual masters, and those who seem to effortlessly attract what they want have been tuning into for centuries? Here's what nobody talks about in those typical self-help videos. You're not broken, and you don't need fixing. You're actually an incredibly sophisticated receiver, like a radio that's been tuned to the wrong station your whole life. Every morning when you wake up, you're unconsciously scanning thousands of frequencies: your childhood programming, your fears, your parents' beliefs about money, success, and love. But here's where it gets fascinating. Last Tuesday, I was having coffee with my friend Sarah, and she told me something that perfectly illustrates this. She said, "You know what's weird? Ever since I stopped desperately looking for love, I met 3 amazing people in 1 week. That's not coincidence, that's frequency." Think about your own life for a moment. When was the last time something amazing happened when you weren't trying to make it happen? Maybe you bumped into an old friend who offered you a job opportunity, or you found exactly what you needed when you least expected it. That's your natural receiving ability working. But most of us only experience it accidentally. The ancient masters understood something we've forgotten in our modern rush. They knew that reality isn't fixed, it's responsive. It's like a mirror that reflects not what you say you want, but what you actually vibrate. And your vibration isn't your thoughts or your affirmations. It's the energy you carry when nobody's watching. Let me ask you something personal. When you're alone at night, just before you fall asleep, what feeling sits in your chest? Is it anxiety about tomorrow? Worry about money? Or is it a quiet knowing that you're exactly where you need to be? That feeling, that's your real frequency. I discovered this the hard way. For years, I meditated, did vision boards, repeated affirmations, but nothing shifted. I was like someone trying to tune into a jazz station while my internal antenna was pointed toward heavy metal. Then I learned something that changed everything. You can't fake a frequency. Your body is constantly broadcasting your true internal state. When you walk into a room, people feel your energy before you even speak. Dogs know if you're afraid. Children sense if you're trustworthy. And reality? Reality is the ultimate detector of authenticity. But here's the breakthrough moment. And this is something you won't hear in any other video. The shift happens not when you try to become someone else, but when you remember who you actually are beneath all the programming. It's like cleaning dust off a diamond. The diamond was always perfect. It just needed to be revealed. I started paying attention to my breath, not as a meditation technique, but as a way to feel my actual frequency. When you breathe consciously, you're literally tuning your nervous system. Your breath connects your inner world to your outer experience. It's the bridge between who you are and what you attract. Here's something beautiful that happened to me last month. I was walking through the grocery store, feeling completely at peace for no particular reason, just breathing and being present. A stranger approached me and said, "I don't know why, but I feel like I should tell you about this opportunity." That conversation led to my biggest breakthrough this year. That's not magic, that's alignment. When your internal frequency matches your authentic self, you become magnetic to everything that belongs in your life. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop forcing and start flowing. But let's get real for a moment. This isn't about positive thinking or pretending everything is perfect. Sometimes life hits hard. I lost my father 2 years ago, and in that grief, I discovered something profound. Even in pain, you can maintain a frequency of trust. Not happiness, trust. Trust that this experience, however difficult, is part of your path. The ancient teachings speak of something called sacred reciprocity. It means that everything you receive, you're meant to give back in some form, but not as obligation, as natural overflow. When you truly receive a sunset, a kind word, or even a difficult lesson, something in you wants to share that energy forward. Think about the people in your life who just feel good to be around. They're not necessarily the happiest or most successful, but there's something about their presence that makes you feel more yourself. They've mastered this frequency. They receive life fully and give it back generously, creating this beautiful cycle of flow. Now, here's where most people get stuck, and I want to save you years of struggle. You might think you need to become love, become abundance, become success, but that's still trying to become something you're not. The real secret is remembering that you're already made of the same substance as everything you desire. Your heart beats with the same rhythm as the universe. Your body is made of stardust. Your consciousness is connected to every living thing. This isn't poetry. This is physics. You're not separate from what you want. You've just forgotten how to tune into the frequency where it already exists. So here's your homework, though it's the gentlest homework you'll ever receive. For the next 7 days, instead of trying to get anything from life, practice receiving what's already here. Receive your morning coffee completely. Receive a friend's smile. Receive even the challenges as gifts, wrapped in difficult paper. Notice how your body feels when you truly receive instead of consuming. Notice how people respond to you differently. Notice how opportunities begin to appear, not because you're chasing them, but because you've become a matching frequency. And here's the most beautiful part. Once you remember how to tune into your authentic frequency, you don't have to maintain it perfectly. It maintains you. Like a river that's found its natural course, life begins to flow through you with less resistance and more grace. This isn't about becoming someone else. This is about becoming more yourself than you've ever been. And in that authentic frequency, everything that truly belongs in your life finds its way to you. Not because you earned it, but because you remembered who you are. Recognizing the first signs. You know that feeling when you hear a song for the first time, but somehow you already know the melody. That's exactly what's happening to you right now, isn't it? I remember the first time I felt it. I was sitting in a crowded coffee shop, and suddenly everything went quiet. Not the sounds, but something deeper. It was like my soul took a deep breath and said, "Oh, there you are. I've been waiting." Have you had that moment yet? That strange recognition of something you've never learned but somehow always knew? Here's what's really happening, and this might sound crazy, but stay with me. Your cellular memory is waking up. Scientists are just beginning to understand that our bodies store information beyond our conscious experience. But ancient traditions knew this. They called it soul memory, the knowing that exists before words, before thoughts, before this lifetime. You've probably noticed people responding to you differently lately, haven't you? Maybe your coworker mentioned that you seem more grounded, or a stranger held your gaze longer than usual. That's not coincidence. You're emanating something new, something that makes people feel safe without knowing why. Let me tell you about Maria, a woman I met at a workshop last year. She came up to me afterward and said, "I don't understand what's happening to me. People keep asking if I'm okay, but I feel better than I've ever felt." She described exactly what you might be experiencing. This inner stability that doesn't depend on external circumstances. But here's where it gets really interesting. You're not just changing, you're becoming a tuning fork for everyone around you. When someone is genuinely aligned with their authentic frequency, they unconsciously give others permission to do the same. You walk into a room now, and something shifts. Can you feel that happening? The most beautiful part? You've stopped performing. Remember how exhausting it used to be trying to be the right version of yourself for everyone? Now you're just you. And somehow, that's enough. More than enough. It's magnetic. I want to ask you something personal. When you look in the mirror these days, do you see different eyes looking back? Not physically, but energetically. There's a steadiness there that wasn't before, right? That's your soul finally feeling at home in your body. This is going to sound strange, but you've probably started having conversations with difficult people that somehow end peacefully. Not because you're avoiding conflict, but because you're carrying something that dissolves resistance. Yesterday, I watched a woman calm an angry customer at the bank simply by maintaining her centered presence. She didn't say anything special. Her energy did the talking. That's conscious love in action, but not the greeting card version. Real love, the kind that sees the frightened child behind every aggressive adult, the wounded heart behind every cruel comment. You're not trying to fix anyone anymore. You're just being a mirror that reflects their highest possibility. Here's something no other video will tell you. This process has a shadow phase. Your family might feel uncomfortable around your newfound peace. Old friends might distance themselves. It's not personal. Wounded people are allergic to wholeness because it reminds them of what they're avoiding in themselves. But you know what I've discovered? The people who are meant to be in your life will be drawn to this new frequency like moths to light. Authentic connections will deepen while surface relationships naturally fade. It's life's way of clearing space for what truly belongs. The mind keeps trying to analyze this transformation, doesn't it? It wants to categorize, explain, control. But this change is happening at a level deeper than thought. It's cellular, energetic, quantum. You're literally rewiring your nervous system to hold a different frequency of existence. And here's the miracle. You don't have to maintain this state through effort anymore. It's maintaining itself through you. Like a river that's found its natural course, this alignment carries its own momentum. So when people ask what's different about you, you might struggle to explain. How do you describe the feeling of coming home to yourself? How do you put into words the peace of no longer fighting who you are? You don't need to explain. Your presence is the explanation. Your peace is the teaching. Your authenticity is the invitation others have been waiting for. If these words feel like coming home, then you know. You're not becoming someone new. You're remembering who you've always been. And that remembering is changing everything, one authentic moment at a time. Why? This knowledge was hidden. What if everything you've been taught about where power comes from is completely backwards? I discovered this truth 3 years ago in the most unexpected place, standing in line at the DMV. I know not exactly where you'd expect enlightenment, right? But as I watched person after person hand over their power to a system that treated them like numbers, something clicked. The real prison isn't the building or the bureaucracy. It's the belief that someone else holds the keys to your freedom. Here's what they don't teach in school, and there's a reason for that. Throughout history, there have been groups of people, mystics, healers, wise women, free thinkers, who discovered something dangerous. Not dangerous because it could hurt people, but dangerous because it could free them. Think about it. Why do you think indigenous wisdom keepers were silenced? Why were the mystery schools driven underground? Why did healers become witches and philosophers become heretics? Because they all pointed to the same revolutionary truth. You don't need anyone to save you, validate you, or give you permission to be powerful. You already are. But here's where most people get it wrong. This isn't about rebellion or fighting the system. That's still giving your power away, just in the opposite direction. The real revolution happens when you stop looking outside yourself for answers and start trusting the wisdom that's been sitting quietly in your chest your whole life. My friend Jessica learned this the hard way. She spent 20 years climbing the corporate ladder, collecting degrees, seeking approval from bosses, parents, even strangers on social media. Then one day, sitting in her corner office feeling completely empty, she realized she'd become a prisoner in a cage she'd built herself. Have you ever felt that way? Like you're living someone else's definition of success? The ancient traditions knew something we've forgotten in our modern rush. They understood that true power isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself, not through force or discipline, but through remembering who you actually are beneath all the conditioning. The Sufis had this beautiful practice. They would spin in circles not to get dizzy, but to break free from the illusion that they were separate from the divine. Every rotation was a way of saying, I am not this small identity. I am vast. I am connected to everything. You don't need to spin to feel this. Just close your eyes and breathe deeply. Feel how your breath connects you to every tree, every ocean, every star. But here's something crucial that even spiritual teachers rarely talk about. This wisdom came with a warning. The mystics knew that understanding your own power without developing wisdom and compassion could be dangerous. It's like giving a loaded gun to someone who's never learned responsibility. That's why these teachings were shared carefully, person to person, heart to heart, not because they wanted to keep secrets, but because they knew that premature knowledge without inner preparation could create tyrants instead of healers. So what does this look like in your daily life? It starts with questioning everything you've been told you should do, be, or want. When you feel that familiar anxiety about not being good enough, ask yourself, good enough for whom? According to what standard? And who decided that standard was true? Last week, I watched my neighbor Tom transform before my eyes. For months, he'd been stressed about his job, his mortgage, his kids' college funds. Then something shifted. He stopped trying to impress his boss and started focusing on doing work that aligned with his values. Guess what happened? He got promoted. Not because he was chasing it, but because authentic power is magnetic. The real secret isn't hidden in ancient texts or mystery schools, it's hiding in plain sight, in that quiet voice that whispers truth when everyone else is shouting opinions. It's in that feeling you get when you know something is right, even when you can't explain why. Your inner authority has been waiting patiently for you to remember it exists. It's been sending you signals through your body, your dreams, your intuitions. Every time something feels off, that's your inner wisdom speaking. Every time you feel genuinely excited about something, that's your authentic self showing you the way. The truth about manifestation. I'm about to tell you why your vision boards aren't working, and why that might be the best news you'll hear all year. 2 months ago, I was sitting across from my friend Rachel at lunch, watching her frantically scroll through her manifestation journal. She'd been visualizing her dream job for 8 months, doing affirmations every morning, even sleeping with crystals under her pillow. "I don't understand," she said, looking exhausted. "I'm doing everything right, but nothing's happening." That's when I realized we've been taught manifestation completely backwards. We've turned it into spiritual shopping, making wish lists and expecting the universe to deliver like Amazon Prime. But what if I told you that real manifestation has nothing to do with getting what you want, and everything to do with becoming who you are? Here's something that will blow your mind. You're already manifesting perfectly. Right now. Every single day. The problem isn't that manifestation doesn't work. It's that it's working exactly as designed, and most of us don't like what we're creating. Think about your life for a moment. Really look at it. Your relationships, your job, your living situation, even how you feel when you wake up in the morning. That's not random. That's not luck or bad luck. That's your internal frequency made visible. You're like a walking radio tower, constantly broadcasting a signal that reality picks up and reflects back to you. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people are broadcasting from their wounds, their fears, their childhood programming, without even knowing it. My client David came to me because he kept attracting unavailable partners. He'd spend hours visualizing his ideal relationship, but deep down, he was terrified of intimacy. Guess what his subconscious was broadcasting? "I want love, but please keep it at a safe distance." And that's exactly what he got. People who were interested but emotionally unavailable. The breakthrough came when David stopped trying to manifest a relationship and started working on becoming someone who could actually receive love. He had to face his fear of vulnerability, heal his trust issues, learn to feel worthy of genuine connection. The moment his internal frequency shifted from "I need love to feel complete" to "I am love expressing itself," everything changed. Within 3 weeks, he met someone who was emotionally available, authentic, and ready for real partnership. That's the secret they don't teach in manifestation courses. You can't attract what you're not vibrationally compatible with. It's like trying to tune into a jazz station while your inner radio is stuck on heavy metal. The signal just won't come through clearly. But here's what's really fascinating. Once you understand this, everything becomes easier, not harder. You stop fighting reality and start dancing with it. You stop trying to force outcomes and start focusing on who you're becoming in each moment. I remember the exact day this clicked for me. I was stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting, feeling that familiar anxiety rising in my chest. Then I caught myself. Instead of spiraling into stress about being late, I took a breath and asked, what frequency am I broadcasting right now? I was sending out panic, rush, fear of not being enough. So I consciously shifted to calm presence, trusting that whatever needed to happen would happen perfectly. You know what's crazy? The traffic cleared, I arrived exactly on time, and the meeting went better than I could have imagined. Not because some cosmic force moved the cars for me, but because I showed up as a different person, calm, centered, trustworthy instead of frazzled and desperate. This is what ancient wisdom traditions understood that we've forgotten. They knew that consciousness shapes reality, not through willpower or wishful thinking, but through alignment. When who you are inside matches what you desire outside, manifestation becomes as natural as breathing. Your nervous system is constantly scanning your environment for evidence that supports your dominant internal state. If you feel unsafe, you'll notice every potential threat. If you feel abundant, you'll spot opportunities everywhere. It's not that the threats or opportunities weren't there before. It's that your awareness was tuned to a different frequency. Here's something profound that happened to my student Maya. She'd been struggling financially for years, doing all the money manifestation techniques. Then she realized something shocking. She was terrified of actually having money because she associated wealth with being selfish or greedy. Her subconscious was protecting her from becoming someone she judged. The moment she healed her relationship with money, seeing it as energy that could serve others, opportunities started flowing effortlessly. The real magic happens when you stop trying to get something from life and start becoming someone life wants to flow through. Instead of asking, how can I manifest my desires? Start asking, who do I need to become to be a match for what I want? This isn't about fake it till you make it positive thinking. It's about genuine inner transformation. It's about healing the wounds that keep you vibrating lack, fear, or unworthiness. It's about remembering that you're not separate from what you desire. You're the very consciousness through which it wants to express itself. When you truly embody this understanding, manifestation stops being something you do and becomes something you are. You become a clear channel for life to create through you, and everything you need finds its way to you with an ease that feels almost magical. The reversal of energy flow. Here's the moment everything clicked for me, and I hope it does the same for you. I was having coffee with an old friend who seemed to have this magnetic quality about her. People gravitated toward her, opportunities found her effortlessly, and she radiated this quiet confidence I couldn't quite name. Then she said something that stopped me cold. I stopped trying to get energy from people and started giving it instead. Wait, what? That sounds backwards, doesn't it? If you're always giving, won't you end up empty? But here's the secret nobody talks about. When you truly give energy, not from obligation or to get something back, but from genuine overflow, you become like a power plant instead of a battery. Batteries drain and need constant recharging. power plants generate their own energy and illuminate everything around them. Think about the last time someone's presence just made you feel better. They weren't trying to impress you or get anything from you. They were simply radiating something that felt good to be around. That's what happens when you switch from being a consumer of energy to being a generator of it. My friend Sarah discovered this accidentally. She was going through a divorce, feeling completely drained, but decided to volunteer at a local shelter. Instead of taking more energy from her, as she expected, giving her presence to others somehow recharged her completely. Within months, her whole life had transformed. New career opportunities, deeper friendships, even her health improved. The universe doesn't respond to your neediness, it responds to your generosity. When you become someone who adds value wherever you go, not through doing more, but through being more, reality reorganizes itself around you. What would happen if you stopped asking what you can get from each situation and started asking what you can contribute? Becoming the mirror. If something inside you just shifted while listening to this, I need you to know that wasn't coincidence, that was recognition. Let me tell you what just happened. Your soul just remembered something it's been trying to tell you for years, maybe lifetimes. And right now, you have a choice. You can close this video and go back to pretending you didn't feel that spark. Or you can lean into what's awakening. Here's what I want you to understand. You didn't randomly stumble across this message. Part of you has been searching for these exact words, even if you couldn't articulate what you were looking for. That restless feeling you've been carrying, that sense that there's something more, that was your inner compass guiding you here. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think awakening is about transcending their humanity, floating above their problems, becoming some perfect spiritual being. I used to think that too. I spent years meditating on mountaintops, avoiding anything that felt uncomfortable, thinking I could bypass my wounds through spiritual practices. Then life humbled me. My marriage fell apart, my business failed, and I found myself sitting on my bathroom floor at 3 a.m., crying like a broken child. And in that moment of complete surrender, something extraordinary happened. I stopped trying to be spiritual and started being human. And that's when real transformation began. The truth they don't tell you in most spiritual teachings is this: your shadows aren't obstacles to overcome. They're gateways to wholeness. Every person who triggers you is showing you a part of yourself you've been avoiding. Every situation that makes you uncomfortable is revealing where you're still fragmenting your own energy. I learned this the hard way with my father. For years, I couldn't be around him without feeling angry, judging his choices, wishing he were different. I thought my spiritual growth meant rising above these feelings. But I was wrong. Real growth meant diving deeper into them. One day, during another frustrating conversation with him, I caught myself mid-judgment and asked a different question. What part of me is he reflecting right now? The answer knocked me sideways. He was showing me my own stubbornness, my own need to be right, my own fear of vulnerability. The moment I owned that, everything shifted, not because he changed, but because I stopped needing him to. This is what becoming a mirror really means. It's not about reflecting only the pretty parts of reality back to people. It's about becoming so whole within yourself that you can hold space for all of it, the light and the shadow, the joy and the pain, the beauty and the messiness of being human. When you reach this level of integration, something magical happens. You stop attracting drama because you're no longer avoiding the parts of yourself that create it. You stop trying to fix people because you've learned to love them as they are. You stop chasing external validation because you've found the approval you were seeking within yourself. But here's the part that will challenge everything you think you know about spirituality. This journey requires you to love your enemies. Not the people who've hurt you, though that may come later, but the enemies within yourself. The parts of you that are jealous, petty, afraid, angry, selfish. The parts you've spent a lifetime trying to hide or eliminate. My friend Marcus discovered this during his divorce. He kept talking about his toxic ex-wife, how she was ruining his life, how unfair the custody battle was. Then his therapist asked him something that changed his perspective forever. What if she's not your enemy? What if she's your teacher, showing you exactly where you still need to heal? It took Marcus months to accept this, but when he finally stopped fighting his ex-wife and started examining what she was mirroring back to him, his control issues, his fear of abandonment, his pattern of playing victim, the entire dynamic shifted. The custody battle resolved peacefully, and they actually became better co-parents than they'd ever been as spouses. This is the real alchemy. Not turning lead into gold, but turning your wounds into wisdom, your triggers into teachers, your shadows into sources of strength. It's about becoming so integrated that nothing external can knock you off your center because you've learned to love all of yourself. And here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop trying to be perfect, you become perfectly yourself. The moment you stop running from your humanity, you discover your divinity. The moment you embrace your shadows, you become truly luminous. If you're still here, still listening, it means something in you is ready for this level of truth. You're tired of spiritual bypassing and ready for spiritual integration. You're done pretending to be someone you're not, and ready to love who you are. This isn't just about personal transformation anymore. When you become this integrated, this whole, this authentic, you become a beacon for others who are ready to stop running from themselves too. You don't need to preach or teach or convince anyone of anything. Your very presence becomes an invitation for others to come home to themselves. So if these words found their target, if something deep inside you just said yes, then welcome to the real journey. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. Because on the other side of integrating your shadows lies a freedom you've never known. The freedom to be completely, authentically, unapologetically yourself. The price of power, integrity. Can I tell you about the most uncomfortable conversation I ever had with myself? I was standing in my kitchen last year, about to say yes to something I absolutely didn't want to do. Again, my friend needed help moving. My boss wanted me to work late. My neighbor asked if I could watch her kids. All perfectly reasonable requests from good people. But I was dying inside, saying yes with a smile while my soul screamed no. That's when it hit me. I wasn't being loving. I was being a coward. Real integrity isn't about being nice. It's about being true. And sometimes truth feels harsh to people who are used to your lies, even the pretty lies we tell to avoid conflict. Here's what changed everything for me. I realized that every time I said yes when I meant no, I was teaching people to disrespect my boundaries. Every time I smiled when I felt angry, I was creating distance in my relationships. Every time I prioritized their comfort over my authenticity, I was weakening the very connection I was trying to protect. True love, the kind that actually transforms relationships, requires you to show up as you really are. Not perfect, not always pleasant, but real. When I finally started honoring my authentic responses, something magical happened. People stopped asking me for things that weren't aligned with my gifts. The right opportunities started flowing naturally. You want to know the secret to effortless attraction? Stop performing who you think people want you to be and start being who you actually are. That's when you become magnetic. Not because you're trying to please everyone, but because you're no longer apologizing for existing. What would your life look like if you trusted that being authentic was enough?